Greetings, mighty companions. Anna Kujawa here, and this is Practical and Healing Applications of A Course in Miracles. And we are going to do our opening meditation as we always do, to connect with our higher self as we ask our higher selves to choose for us where and what in A Course in Miracles that we study today. So we're going to do our opening meditation. And Wendy is going to play the background. You'll see her in a moment. Hi, Wendy. And then we'll end the opening meditation with a song with Wendy, but she's going to play for us. So if you haven't already, close your eyes and take a breath. And just breathe. And tell your mind to come on back home to the right now, where your mind can rest, where your mind can open, where your mind can heal. Tell your mind to come back home from out of the past. Tell your mind to come back home from the future. Tell your mind it's safe to come back right here, right now, where you are, that it may rest and open and heal. We make our minds work so hard to do things. Let's love our minds and let them rest from planning. Let's let our minds rest from analyzing. Let's let our minds rest from fear. Let's let our minds rest from defending. Let's love our minds. Let your mind go where it will. Let it come home and rest. In your mind is already everything that you need right now for peace, for healing, for power, for joy. Let your mind rest and be its self. And breathe. Now let's feel for that presence that lives in the present within us. Feel for this presence that abides within our mind. See if you can feel its love. See if you can feel its love for you. This undying love for you. See if you can feel its forever unchanging devotion to you. See if you can feel its forever friendship. Open your heart to that. Open your heart to feel this undying, eternal love for you. And breathe it in. And as we feel its undying, eternal love for us, let us cast our cares upon this presence, our forever friend. Cast your cares upon it because it cares for you. Unburden yourself. Say to this eternal friend within you, please take this from me. Turn it into healing for me. Look upon this for me. And thank you. And Spirit of divine love and healing within me, I ask you to decide for me what and where in A Course in Miracles we read from tonight. You know the prayer of my heart. You know my call for healing, and you know exactly how to answer it. I trust your love for me. I trust your wisdom. And I ask you to decide for me. And thank you.
Say, take the rocky road and roll. Debate exists between the fire and my soul. For the cobblestones are rough, and I've been told the view is nice, but watch the many holes. Da da da, Maybe make me follow you. Maybe make me call on you. Maybe send the fire out. Out of control. I feel the flame, will it dim on any day? Or build up bright and fill the many layers? Either way, the path will be displayed. Rocky, rough, da da.
Uh-huh.
Maybe make me follow you. Maybe make me call on you. Maybe send the fire out. Out of control. I follow my heart where it leads. I follow my heart where it leads. I follow my heart where it leads. Ah, where it leads. I follow my heart where it leads. Maybe make me follow you. Maybe make me call on you. Maybe send the fire out. Maybe make me follow you. Maybe make me call on you. Maybe send my fire out. Out of control.
Beautiful. Thank you. That was so perfect. Thank you, Wendy. ChantYourHeartOpen.com. If you would like to hear some more of that, go to her website. Woof, baby, how perfect is that? Hi, guys. Hi, Patty. Hi, Diana. Hi, Irene. Lovely to see you all. Wasn't that beautiful? Woo, thank you, God. And music I don't have to worry about copyright stuff with. Hallelujah. All right, you guys. So we are doing the random number generator like we often do, like we always do. And I have, it's chapter 9 tonight. And and let's look at chapter 9 and see how many sections there are in chapter 9. Chapter 9, there are, wow, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 sections. All right. 8. And that is it is section 7, the 2 evaluations. So, I'm not sure what that is in the blue book yet. Okay, so, all right, now let's okay. Okay, and there's books here if anybody would like one. Let's see here. Okay, the 2 evaluations. All right. Okay, beautiful. 7. Did we say, oh, we said 9. That's right. Gotta have a short memory. Okay. Yes, And it's not exactly the same section in that one yet. So, okay, so I'll have to find it and then I'll let you know what it is. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, hi everybody. Hi. Hi Jerry, lovely to see you. Hi Renu. Okay. First sentence. the two evaluations. But you cannot abide in peace unless you accept the truth for yourself, because the truth is the way to peace. Cue the music. Right. So where does peace come from? It comes from, they're using the word atonement, and the atonement is the process of releasing one's fear and guilt. You cannot live in peace unless you accept the release from fear and guilt for yourself, because you're releasing your fear and your guilt for yourself is the way to peace. I need some peace right now. The way to do that is to accept the release from fear and guilt within myself. Somebody else? No. Changing somebody else? No. Changing this situation? No. Okay? Getting a better this? Getting a better that? No. Accepting the process of my own release from fear and guilt myself. That's the only way that I can live in peace. Anybody down for a little bit of that?
I'm down for that.
Yeah. We hear of all these different remedies for peace and joy. And it tells us in the first sentence, it's the only way to live in peace. Now, then it says the reason is very simple. And the reason is so obvious that the reason is overlooked. And the reason is that is because the ego is afraid of the obvious. Why is the obvious and very simple overlooked? Because the ego is afraid of the obvious. Why? Because obviousness is the essential characteristic of reality, which means you cannot overlook the truth unless you are not looking. The truth is the most simple, most obvious thing there is in the whole universe. It's the most obvious, most simple thing in the universe. That's the way God made it. Since God is love, if God loves you, if your creator loves you, is your creator gonna hide the truth from you? Is something that loves you, is a loving, wise parent gonna go, I know the truth about the world, but I'm not gonna tell you. You're gonna have to figure it out the hard way. Okay? A creator, a source that loves you, is going to make the truth the most obvious thing there is so that you cannot overlook it unless you are not looking. Okay? Now, the obvious truth that is the most obvious thing in the entire universe is that you are innocent. There is no sin. You are the innocent creation of life itself. There is no sin. That is the most simple and most obvious truth. Wow. And that's why the ego doesn't like what is obvious. Okay? Now, it's perfectly obvious that if Spirit looks with love on everything Spirit sees, then it must mean that Spirit looks with love on you. We all could agree that Spirit looks with love on everything, right? Sure, we can get that. We sometimes then leave ourselves out of that. We're like, yeah, God is love. Yeah, that means also you are. If Spirit looks with love on everything Spirit sees, that means Spirit looks with love on you. So how do I look to Spirit? What does Spirit see when Spirit looks at me right now? Spirit sees love. Well, I don't feel very lovable today. I don't feel very beautiful. I don't feel like love today, right? But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you feel like in your misperception of yourself, your unloving perception of yourself. When we allow, when we're not allowing Spirit, no matter what, unconditionally, Spirit is looking at us like, I love you. I love you. And with Spirit, there's no because or if or whens or anything like that. It is, I love you. You are love. You are loving. You are lovable. End of story. No exceptions. And that's the most obvious thing. Okay? Which means if we are not feeling lovable right now, for whatever reason, that can only mean that we are looking at ourselves not through Spirit's eyes, but through our fearful mind's eyes. You know, the part of our mind that doesn't know us, but acts like it does all day long. Okay, it's acting like the expert. Okay, nice affirmation, you know, nice reminder. If I'm not seeing myself as love right now, as loving, as lovable, I am not seeing myself the way my Creator sees me. Period. End of story, which means I'm seeing myself wrong. I'm seeing myself wrongly. Okay. First thing we want to remember when we're not feeling lovable. Okay. It says Spirit's evaluation of you is based on knowledge of what you are. And so Spirit evaluates you truly. And Spirit's evaluation of you must be in your mind. Why? Because Spirit is in your mind. Okay? Where is Spirit? Spirit is in my mind. You know, we tend to think of Spirit as like, oh, Spirit's all around. Spirit's in nature. Spirit's all around. Spirit is in our mind. Okay? And if Spirit is in our mind, then Spirit's evaluation of us is also in my mind. Isn't that great? So at any moment, if I really want to get the real authority, the opinion of the one true authority, I can. I don't have to go up to the mountain. I don't have to go pay a lot of money. I don't have to go find the right person. I don't have to look. I don't have to search. I literally can go within my own mind, look within my own mind, and ask the one true authority on me. What is the truth about me? Spirit, love, source, you know what I am. Right now, I'm calling myself a loser. I'm calling myself sick. I'm calling myself defective. I'm calling myself unlovable and unloving. But what do you say, Spirit, who is in my mind? Isn't that beautiful? That's as far as I have to go. And it's not a going without, it's a going within. I love that. Okay, beautiful. Questions or comments on the first paragraph? Isn't that a wonderful reminder that the one and only truth about us is that we are loving and lovable, that we are loved. That's it. And that is the only thing that our source and our Spirit knows about us. That's not a if and when thing. That's Spirit knows, what it says, that's Spirit's knowledge of what you are. You know, Spirit knows what we are. We don't. We still think that we are what we learned we are. We still think that we are what we learned we are. We still think that we are the way we feel today. Well, I don't feel good today, so it must not be good. Well, I don't feel very loving today, so it must not be loving. I don't feel really lovable today, so I'm not lovable. You know, we who are not the authority on ourselves. Course in Miracles says, stop asking yourself what you are. You are not the one who created you. So you're not the authority, you know. So the Course in Miracles is teaching us how to ask, how to go within and ask our true authority for the truth about us. And stop taking our own word for it just because we're in a mood. Okay, questions or comments? All right, how you guys doing out there? Beautiful. Hi, Steve, lovely to see you. Irene, lovely to see you. And hi, Sandra. Okay, and we are talking about the 2 evaluations. Okay, so there's Spirit's evaluation of ourselves and our evaluation of ourselves. Now, any kind of discontent, suffering, unease, dis-ease, anything you have got going on that does not feel good, it has one source and one cause alone, and that is coming from our misevaluation of ourselves. That's where it's coming from, okay? Because if you knew who you really were, if you knew how Spirit sees you, if you knew how your source sees you, you could only be full to the brim with ecstatic joy. So if you don't like the way you feel, it's because you are believing yourself. You have evaluated yourself, even though you didn't come from yourself, and thank God you are wrong about yourself. That's where that dis-ease and discomfort and suffering comes from. I'm believing my own evaluation and I'm suffering because of that. All right, isn't that the good news? That if you don't like the way you feel, you are wrong about yourself. You're innocent, but you are not your own author. All right, that was paragraph number 1. Paragraph number 2. The ego, our fearful, angry, guilty mind, is also in our mind. Why? Only because we accepted it in our mind. That's the only reason the ego is there, because we accepted it there. Now, the ego's evaluation of us, however, is the exact opposite of the loving Spirit's evaluation of us. Why? Because the ego does not love you. So, I've got something within my mind that does not love me. Have you noticed? The only thing it ever tells you is negative. You're not good enough. You're a loser. You're a failure. You're inadequate. You're unloving. You're unlovable. And you don't look good and you're going to die. Okay, right? And your breath smells. We all are aware of this, except that we have been so identified with it, we don't realize that it is a voice within our mind. Until you learn it's only one of 2 voices in your mind, then you think that when you hear it, you think you're hearing your voice, and you just accept it as the truth. Okay? But this is teaching us that the ego is just a voice in our mind, and the only reason it's there is because we accepted it in our mind. And what is it doing? Its evaluation of us is always the exact opposite of our loving voice. Its evaluation of us. So where our loving right mind says, you are only love, and the ego voice says, you are only guilty. You are only fear. Okay? You are only the opposite of love. Now, We need to know as much as we can about this voice, because it does not love us. And if it doesn't love us, what do you think is its goal? Its goal is that we hate ourselves. That's its goal. It doesn't love us, and it wants us to also hate ourselves. That's its goal, okay? And we need to be able to identify this voice. We need to be able to recognize it. Why? So that when it speaks, we can go, yep, well, I'm not going to take your word for it because you hate me. Why would I listen to you? You hate me and want me to die. So, no, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to take your word for what I am. I'm going to listen for the other voice that's in my mind that only tells me I am love, I am loving, and I am lovable. But if you don't know the difference between the two voices, and you don't know what the ego voice is about, then guess what? You will continue to listen to it, you will continue to identify with it, and you will continue to believe it, and you will then hate yourself and punish yourself as if you are a hateful thing. Okay? So we need to know about that voice. So we're hearing two evaluations that are in our mind. Yes, Jade?
I wanted to ask about our origin of the acceptance of letting into our
Very
mind. Is
great.
that an original, the dawn of existence type of situation, or is that a ever-present type of acceptance?
You mean when did it or where did it come from?
Sure.
Okay, yeah. The Course in Miracles calls it the great detour into fear, or the fall, or the separation.
Totally.
Okay, now it's what it says is that before the separation, where all was one, into the mind crept a tiny, insane idea that the creation forgot to laugh at. That's where it came from. A tiny, mad idea that crept into our mind that we could be separate, that we could die, that we could be something besides love, and we did not fall over laughing. And it became a very serious idea, one of total accomplishment. And that's how it came. Now, if that's how the ego came into being, then A Course in Miracles says, then what is the end of the ego? If the ego came into being because we forgot to laugh at that insane notion that we could be separate and die, then the end of the ego is laughter. That's how the ego ends, laughter, okay? When you see the total joke in how you could be guilty, how you could be unloving and unlovable, how you could die, when you get the joke, it's over. How could something that was created by eternal love die? Right? That's the joke we forgot to laugh at. We came from eternal love, we came from eternal life, but we die. Right? So, but it has now become a voice in our mind that until you recognize that it's just a voice in your mind, only one of two voices in your mind, then we can't say no to it. Right? Until we go, that's a voice in my mind. That's the voice that doesn't love me. That's the voice that doesn't know the truth about me because it didn't create me. Then, no, I'm not going to listen to that. I'm going to listen to the other voice. Most people don't know that they have another voice to listen to in their mind. Most people think their unloving, mean voice in their mind is them. They think that's their truth. They don't know it's just a voice that we accepted into our mind, and that's the only reason it's there. Most people don't know that. And so, of course, in Miracles is teaching us, you have two voices in your mind. You have two teachers in your mind. Now, the goal is to stop accepting it. If the only way the ego even is in your mind as a voice, as a belief system, is because you accepted it there, then that means that I could stop accepting the ego's voice, that thought system, and then it wouldn't be in my mind. And then the only other thing in my mind, which was placed by Source, would be the voice for love. And that's the only thing that would be in my mind. So we're learning in A Course in Miracles how to tell the difference between the two voices, the two teachers, the two belief systems, okay? So that we can tell them apart and finally start making some real choices between love and fear, okay? Guilt and innocence. All right, beautiful, welcome. What's your name?
Christine.
Christina, nice to have you, welcome. And welcome back, Stefan. All right, so I'm gonna just start back at paragraph 2 because we only read one sentence. It says, the ego is also in your mind because you have accepted the ego there, and your fearful, angry, guilty voice, its evaluation of you, however, is the exact opposite of the loving spirit's voice in you, because the ego does not love you. The ego within your mind is unaware of what you are, and not only is the ego completely unaware of what you are, but your ego voice is also wholly mistrustful of everything it sees, because your ego voice's own perceptions are so shifting. And so your ego voice is therefore capable of suspiciousness at best and viciousness at worst. This is your ego voice's entire range. Your ego cannot exceed this range from suspicious to vicious because of your ego's uncertainty. And your ego can never go beyond this uncertainty because your ego can never be certain. Wow. So, what is the ego? It is the voice within me that, what does it say? It is completely mistrustful of everything it sees, and also this voice is completely unaware of what we are. It doesn't love us, it doesn't know what we are, and it's mistrustful of everything. Why? Because it's completely insecure. It's completely uncertain. The ego can never feel secure because the ego is an illusion in itself. That voice within us isn't even real. Now, it will never say, I am not real. But because it's unreal, it's completely insecure. And you may have noticed that whenever you are feeling insecure, all you can do is be mistrustful. What do you want from me? Why do you like me? What's your motivation? What's going on here? What do you want from me? What's your motivation? And so when we are feeling insecure, that's our whole range, right? You know, when someone's feeling insecure, all they can do is judge the situation in terms of self-protection, right? I need to protect myself, okay? So the ego's entire range is either suspicious to vicious, because the ego, because it's completely insecure, because it's not who you are and it's an illusion, and the ego knows that you, its maker, can end it with a decision. Your fearful, angry, guilty, insecure voice knows that you can end it in one simple decision, in one moment. And so your ego is very, 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 very insecure, and it feels very vulnerable, okay? But your ego never says, hey, I feel really insecure and vulnerable. Could you stop listening to that loving stuff? You know, I feel like every time you study A Course in Miracles, I get more and more vulnerable, like I'm gonna vanish. Because the ego is the voice for fear. The ego is the voice for guilt. So every time you hear something loving, every time you listen to the voice for love, your ego gets more vulnerable, more insecure, more suspicious. And the ego will never say, Anna, please stop listening to that stuff that says you are only love because I'm gonna die. It says, Anna, you're gonna die. Or Anna, you wanna die, don't you? So whenever my ego is feeling most insecure and most like it's dying from the truth I'm allowing in, my ego starts to feel like it's gonna die. And then that's the time when all of a sudden I have fantasies of death, images of death, weird, involuntary, intrusive visions of death. I'm like, why am I having these visuals of death? Oh, my ego, which is the idea of death, was feeling threatened by the loving truths that I was allowing myself to believe, that I was daring to allow myself to believe about myself. I was daring to allow myself to believe, well, maybe I am only love. Maybe I am only love and everything else is just my mistake about myself. And the ego's like, ugh, I'm dying. I can't breathe. Stop listening to that Course in Miracles. You're gonna die, Anna. And I'm gonna show you how you're gonna die. You're gonna die in a car crash, Anna. And then, or maybe you'll die like this. And maybe your daughter will die like this. And I'm just like, wait a minute. Okay. But once I understood what was going on, then I was like, okay, that makes sense. When I am listening to the loving voice within me, which only says, you are love, you are loving, you are lovable, that's the only truth about you, then the ego went from suspicious about me to vicious to me. Okay? You know, why is my ego seeming to kick my butt right now? Oh, right, my ego went vicious because I stepped up the amount of time I was allowing myself to believe that I am only love and everything else is just my mistake. So my ego went from suspicious to vicious, and that's its whole range. And when is it that the ego is just suspicious? When is it that my ego is just sitting back and being like, I got my eye on you. All right, I got my eye on you. When is the ego sitting back and being not vicious but just suspicious? When I am tolerating self-debasement. When I'm tolerating the belief system of guilt and shame and fear and attack, I'm not good enough, something's wrong with me, they're to blame. When I am tolerating unloving, self-debasing thoughts, my ego's like, all right, pretty good job, all right, even though it's still totally suspicious. It's not being my friend, it's just not being vicious in the moment. So when we are tolerating self-debasement, then our ego is very pleased. It doesn't love us. It's not our best friend all of a sudden, but it is temporarily less vicious. All right? So just know that about this part of you. Your ego can never have real self-esteem. It can never be certain. So as long as you are entertaining and listening to this voice, the fearful, angry, guilty voice called the ego, you will be maintaining a belief system of a total insecurity. The ego can never feel secure. So self-esteem in ego terms is impossible. Okay, so, and when we know that about the ego, then when we're listening to it and feeling all those feelings of insecurity, and uncertainty and self-doubt, we can just go, oh, okay, I have definitely been listening to my ego all day. That's what's really been going on. So instead of going, well, so-and-so disappointed me, and so-and-so broke my heart, and so-and-so acted like a fool, and this didn't work right, now we go, I have been listening to my ego all day, and I feel like crap, exactly as it would have me feel. Because that's what's really going on. You're not upset because of what you think you're upset about. You're upset because you've been listening to the voice that does not love you, which means hates you all day long. That's what's been going on. All right. Beautiful. How are you guys doing out there? Hi, Maria. Lovely to see you. All right. Hi, Lisa Ann. Okay. Let's take a breath and let's take a breath on that. Ah. Very nice. Okay. Questions, thoughts, feelings? What's it feel like to hear about this part of you called the ego?
Awesome.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Isn't it comforting to realize, oh, that voice isn't me. Oh, hallelujah. I thought it was me. I thought that was the real truth about me, and all the positive, loving stuff was just, was just what I was trying to believe.
I don't understand. I let go of the ego in my meditation. Now I'm pissed.
You let go of the ego in your
My
meditation,
meditation.
and so your ego was pissed.
Yeah, so I'm
That's
pissed.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
My ego.
And then you think you're pissed,
Yeah.
when really you let go of, you dared for a few minutes to not listen to the ego voice. And the ego is such a dominating, cruel, and possessive, controlling voice that you didn't listen to it for 5 minutes and it went vicious. It punished you. Like, come on now. The ego is the cruelest master there is. You cannot serve two masters. And the ego is one of those masters. And then the Course in Miracles says that the ego as a cruel master can only punish those who obey it. And the ego punishes those who obey the ego as a sign of, as a gift to those who obey it. Which means, unless you are listening to your ego and obeying it and believing it, the ego cannot touch you. It cannot punish you. It cannot hurt you. The ego only hurts or punishes those who obey it. Yes.
Yeah, this morning I had a meditation. I was trying to relax, but then my ego kicks in, and then he said, "Oh no, you're not going to relax. You have this and this problem.
Yes.
Remember."
Yes.
So it kicks a hell of a party.
Absolutely.
It won't allow me to
Yes.
completely relax.
That's exactly right.
I went
It's a
from
great.
happy to crappy.
Yeah. What'd you say?
I went from happy to
You
crappy.
went from happy to crappy. Yes, and what you're saying, both of you, is a fantastic example of how and when our ego shifts from suspicious to vicious. Okay, so generally we're going through our day, da-da-da-da-da. The ego is like the little voice in the background going, you got so much to do, and you don't have enough time, and you're not going to get it all done, and da-da-da-da, you're late again, and oh my God, I have too much to do, and oh, there's so much I should be doing, and da-da-da. But it's just in the background, just in your, like, whatever. It's like little, like a little gnat in your ear. Nothing too much. That's it being suspicious. But then you sit down to meditate and practice your workbook lesson or whatever, and think about only the love that you are. And what happens? The ego comes at you full force. You are a loser. You know you are. You're always going to be one. You've always been one. And also, you should be doing something else, like doing something productive with your life. And then it brings in all like the big guns. Okay? That's a perfect example of the ego shifting from suspicious background little thing to pulling out the big guns when you're trying to meditate on love. It's a perfect example of that. Now, when you know that, then, hi, honey.
Hey, hey.
Um,
Sorry if you saw me comment.
I
on
did.
the phone.
Yeah, no worries. When you know that, and when your ego goes vicious, then you can go, oh, of course, my ego went vicious. I had all this, this beautiful day of just feeling loving and feeling lovable, and I listened to only loving thoughts about myself, and I took myself to a yoga class, and then I, made myself a beautiful, healthy meal, and I talked to somebody who loves me on the phone, and of course, right after that, then my ego is going to come after me like a rabid dog, like a vicious dog. When you know that, then you know what's going on. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is peace. Now you're not afraid of the way the ego's trying to make you feel terrible about yourself. Now you're not afraid of it. Now you don't fall for it. Now you don't believe it. You go, I see you how you are, ego. I was only letting myself be loved, and of course you felt threatened because you're nothing but insecure, and you hate me, and you don't want anybody to love me. You don't want me to love me, so you're pissed. And you attacked me. I see, okay. And once you know, then no fear, no guilt. You keep on going. Maybe you even laugh at it. The ego can withstand everything but being laughed at. So just know that. As soon as you go, ha ha ha, wow, you are incredibly consistent. Right on time, ego. Nobody does it better than you, ego. And you laugh at it, it's like, blah. It's like what happens to the wicked witch, when water, goes on the wicked witch. Why, I'm melting. Don't laugh at me. Take me seriously. Did I mention your hateful thing? Nobody's gonna love you. Thank you, baby. Thank you. That's a great example, Stefan. Okay, beautiful. Okay, great. Paragraph 3. You then have 2 conflicting evaluations of yourself in your mind. And these 2 conflicting evaluations of yourself in your mind, guess what? They can't both be true. And you don't realize how completely different these 2 evaluations of you are because you don't understand how lofty the Spirit's perception of you really is. Wow. We don't understand, we can't even conceive of how lofty Spirit's perception of us is. Wow. Which is true perception. Exactly. Right now, if you were to hear how lofty the way Spirit sees you is, you'd be like, are you sure you're talking about me? Are you talking about the person standing behind me? Do you know me? Did you see what I did this morning? It says, for instance, your loving right mind, the Spirit in you, is not deceived by anything you do, because the Spirit in you never, ever, ever forgets what you are, which is the opposite of me. I am deceived by everything I do. I'm late again. What an idiot. Oh my God, I forgot that appointment. Oh my God, I am a terrible therapist. That's me being deceived by anything I do, everything I do. That's me forgetting what I am for something stupid like being late. Whereas the Spirit in me never forgets who I am. The Spirit in us never forgets who we are and isn't deceived by any mistake we make. Spirit isn't like, oh my God, you're late again? Oh God, when are you going to evolve? How long have you been on the spiritual path, Anna? Come on. The Spirit in us is not deceived or upset by anything we do. And we are deceived by everything we do. In other words, we're tempted to think we're a piece of crap with the smallest of things, right? We're willing to put ourselves down and feel guilty, feel bad about ourselves over anything we do. But the Spirit in us is never deceived by anything we do because it never forgets what we are. Okay? It sees the mistakes we make, but it doesn't affect Spirit's perception of us one bit. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Now, our ego is deceived by everything we do, even when we respond to the loving Spirit within us. Because when we respond to the loving voice within us, guess what happens? At such times, our ego's confusion increases. When I listen to the loving voice within me, my ego voice, my hateful voice, its confusion increases. It's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Wait, whoa, 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 uh-oh, I'm starting to melt. Oh my God, I'm gonna die. Okay? So the ego is most confused when we respond to love, when we listen to the loving voice. And that's why our ego voice is therefore particularly likely to attack you when you react lovingly. I'm going to say that again. Your ego is therefore particularly likely to attack you when you react lovingly. Why? Because the ego has evaluated you as unloving. And so when you react lovingly, you are going against your ego's judgment of you. Wow. So, ego psychology right here. Ego psychology. And the more you know, then the more then you are not the ego's bitch. The less the ego can punish you or attack you. What does the ego do to us? The ego punishes us. Why? Because we just heard it say, the ego does not love us. Why? Because the ego has evaluated us as unloving and unlovable. That's the ego's judgment on us. And so then if that's the ego's evaluation of us, then when is the ego going to be most offended? When we're loving. When we react with love. So watch it sometime. Check it out. Next time your ego goes vicious of like, you're such an idiot, you're such a loser, what is wrong with you? You know how your ego does it. Your ego knows what words and what form of condemnation that it can get you with. Next time the ego starts telling you next time your ego goes vicious, check it out and go, was I just reacting lovingly somewhere? Did I just react lovingly in a place I typically don't react lovingly? Oh yeah, the other day I was feeling particularly bad about myself, and what I usually do is I start cataloging my faults, and then I start giving myself guilt. But I didn't do that day. What I did was I took myself to the park and I loved myself and I listened to some loving things and I did some loving things for myself. I reacted to myself lovingly. Oh, that's what's going on. Oh, no wonder the ego went vicious on me. Because I reacted lovingly. Okay? So check it out. See if you can catch the pattern. Okay? All right.
So that's the way you laugh at the ego, is by acting contrary to the way it tells you that you are.
Exactly. And the more you know about ego psychology, and knowledge is power, then instead of now wasting an entire week believing the ego's vicious attack on ourselves and just feeling like crap for a whole week, that's us believing its unloving, hateful story and falling for it for a week. Instead of falling for it and listening to it for a whole week and sacrificing our joy for a whole week just because we're listening to this thing within us that doesn't know us and hates us. And I go, oh, that's what that was. And then now I'm going to let myself react more lovingly. Now I'm going to listen to more love. Take that, ego. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes,
I have a question about protection. When it feels like in the external world, our heart or our love has been somehow being disrespected or dishonored, or maybe the illusion of the ego is creating that reflection for us to see where we feel unsafe about that within ourselves. But as far as learning boundaries or how to keep that part safe, because it is sacred and so much does want to kind of take it from us, or make us believe that we are not it. How in this like 3D dimension do we really lead and continue from that place, but also from a place that is like really discerning and protecting to it? You know what I mean?
Yes. What A Course in Miracles would say is that if you are perceiving the unloving attack from without,
It is within.
okay, that to know that that is a projection of your ego's attack on you from within your own mind. Okay? Because if that wasn't happening in your own mind, that person could have never even come into your sphere. And once you realize that's a projection from your own mind, go, oh, that is exactly what my ego thinks about me right now. Then you wouldn't be tempted to stay in that person's presence. You only stay in somebody's presence who's attacking you if you agree with them and think you deserve it. So the worst that another human being can do to you is agree with your your ego's hateful perception of you. That's the worst someone can do, is agree with it. And that's all that's happening, you know, if you are attracted to them and what's coming from them is unloving, is you are agreeing with your ego's unloving assessment of you. Yeah, and they could never, never, never hold you one iota and hurt you unless you're agreeing with them, unless you are already agreeing with your ego's assessment of yourself. You know, and what is your ego's assessment of you? It does not love you. It sees you as an unloving, unlovable, hateful thing. Why? Why does the ego hate us? Because the ego knows that it's not us and that we can undo it with a single decision. And it knows that it's not eternal and it will end. And so it's very insecure. And it sees us as that which could end its life in a moment. And so it doesn't love us, it's afraid of us. And that's why it's afraid of us, and that's why it doesn't love us. And the ego is an unloving thought. That's what it is. And we are a loving thought. That's all we are. The Course in Miracles says, you are an idea in the mind of love. That's what you are. That's your identity. And it is the opposite. And so what's it going to feel within us except threatened by us? Because we are the opposite and the ending of what it is. We are real. It's an illusion, so it fears us. And how do we react to things we fear? With hate, with attack, right? So it's one of the most important things to understand this thought and this belief system that's in our mind that we adopted, that we accepted a long, long time ago. Because as we look upon the ego through the eyes of truth, what happens to the ego? Exactly. It just goes back to the nothingness from which it came. That's what happens to it. Okay. But while we are not looking upon it through the eyes of truth, it seems like the frickin' devil itself. It looks like the most powerful dark power in the universe that you could never stand up to. That's what it will seem like and feel like when you don't know the truth about it and you're not looking at it through the eyes of the truth, through the eyes of your loving right mind. Okay. It's a great question, Jade. Really, fantastic question. Fantastic. Any other questions or comments?
So when we see it, so when an external projection comes, is it almost could be go into that moment and, like you were saying, track back to like, oh, I was being loving, so this is an interesting
Yes.
deriving because it's like that really direct mirror of our psyche, or is it like the present moment? It's like an opportunity to battle and then to win within our minds.
Yeah,
Well, anyway,
it's both. It's both, you know, it's an awareness that, oh, my ego must have been, this is what I do when I see my ego's going vicious, whether I'm feeling it within my own mind or it's been, I've projected it out and somebody's being vicious to me. What I often say is, oh, my ego must have been feeling particularly threatened by something loving. I wonder what that was. I wonder what it was that I was, what it was that my ego felt particularly threatened by. What could it be? Okay, so I do that, and I see it as an opportunity to go, wow, okay, I still listen to that unloving voice in my mind. I'm still listening to that unloving voice in my mind. And that's my call for help. No judgment, no judgment. I'm still listening to the unloving voice in my mind, and that's my call for help. I'm learning. No judgment, no guilt. We all are. That's why we're here, and that's how we got here. So there's no comparison, no like, oh, you know, I should be farther along on this spiritual path and not listen to that unloving voice anymore. Right. You know, that's not true. That's also listening to the unloving voice.
Got you.
Exactly. And if you were never listening to the unloving voice and believing it still sometimes and falling for it and being fooled by it, then you wouldn't be here in planet Earth, in Earth School. You wouldn't be here. You know, the guards would have kicked you out. Sorry, you don't need to be here. Okay, so no guilt. We're all still learning. We're all here in Earth School for the same reason.
Love for Dummies.
Yes, exactly. This is Love for Dummies school. The Course in Miracles says, you do not come here to Earth School if you listened only to one voice. But the goal of this curriculum is to get to the point where we only listen to one voice. And that is how, that's how the spiritual masters, who really were spiritual masters, that's how they achieved spiritual mastery. They got to the point where they trained themselves to listen to only one voice and to follow only one master. That's how they attained enlightenment. That is how they truly woke up. And that's what we're learning how to do. That no matter what the ego says and does, we still only listen to the voice of love. Oh, I'm seeing something that really, oh God, that I want to just, close my eyes, I don't want to see. But yet, I still only listen to only one voice as I'm looking upon it. Oh, look, there's that battle scene with, the shattered limbs and the screaming dying. But I only look upon it through the eyes of love. I only look upon it through the voice of love. I only interpret it as the voice of love interprets it. That's real spiritual mastery. And that's what we're getting to. More and more and more and more and more. More and more and more. And the more it is that we listen only to the voice of love in each situation, then the more and more peace and joy and abundance and health and healing and fun we experience in our lives. It's total correlation, right? Okay, beautiful. Beautiful. So then it says, oh yes, it says the ego is therefore particularly likely to attack you when you react lovingly, because our ego has evaluated us as unloving. And so reacting lovingly, you are going against the ego's judgment. And so the ego will begin to attack your loving motives as soon as your loving motives become clearly out of accord with your ego's perception of you. Wow. Isn't that funny? It seems so contradictory that, you get into A Course in Miracles, like, I'm getting into A Course in Miracles. It's going to be peace and love and joy from now on. It's so wonderful. What? Whoa, wait a minute. I got into A Course in Miracles, and then a freaking wrecking ball came into my life. What is up with that? Anybody ever notice that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
What's up with that?
You
Yeah.
ask for a holy relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly. It's like, oh, we're going to ask for a holy relationship. We're going to have the most loving, peaceful, joyous, wonderful relationship from now on because we invited Holy Spirit into our relationship and it's going to be, holy from now on. And then next week, I think we should break up. And it's your fault because you are going to prevent us from having a holy relationship like A Course in Miracles said we could have. You. Okay. And why is that? Because this explains it. This explains it. So when you start to react lovingly, then your ego attacks your motives. The ego goes from suspicious to vicious, right? And you see it most clearly in your relationships when you're like, okay, let's learn how to love each other like God loves, with like God love, not like our fake love that we learn. And then next thing you know, we hate each other and we break up. So, like, wait a minute. Yeah, but this explains that. And when you know what's going on, then when it begins happening, then you can not feel like a total failure and you should just stop trying. Because now you see that it's the ego's game and not that you are a failure at love because you are unloving. Ego's like, oh, you're going to react lovingly? Oh my goodness. That person must not know that you're not loving person at all. Oh, they think you're loving because you've been loving? Wait till they see who you really are.
when they say this to you.
Exactly. Wait till they see how you react when they say this. Right. Okay. And then we go, oh, see, I'm not really a loving person. You know, they came home late and I tried to choke them. Right. See, I'm not loving. No, that's not the correct assessment of what happened. The correct assessment is you had loving motivation and your ego became threatened, and so your ego attacked you with viciousness with the purpose of showing you that you're not loving and you're not lovable. And you fell for it. Again. And what do we say? And that's a call for love. That's all. I'm learning. That's what we say. It's just a call for love. It's just a call for love. All right. And I'm learning. It says, and the ego will begin to attack your motives as soon as your loving motives become clearly out of accord with the ego's perception of you as unloving. This is when your ego will shift abruptly from suspiciousness to viciousness. Why? Because your ego's uncertainty is increased. But it is surely pointless to attack in return. When you are feeling attacked by your ego, it says don't, it's pointless. It didn't say don't attack in return. It said it's pointless to attack in return. Because if you attack in return to feeling attacked, what can that mean except that you are agreeing with your ego's evaluation of what you are? Right. It's just like you were saying, Jade, you know, when you've been loving, you've reacted lovingly, and your ego feels threatened, it's going to be vicious with you, but usually it's going to come through another person. And then we are going to what? Be tempted to attack back that person. So what's really going on is that the ego was using that person to attack us, to demonstrate to us so that we would attack back, so the ego could say, see, you're not really loving at all. See? So he's saying, so when the ego attacks you to show you through another person that you're unloving, don't attack back. Not because it's bad, because it's just pointless. It's just pointless, he says. Because if you attack back, you're literally saying, you win, ego, you're right, I am not loving. I am an unconscious, unenlightened bitch. You're right, ego. And I should give up A Course in Miracles. Right. Someone like me who just attacked back that person should not be teaching A Course in Miracles at all. So you're right, ego, you win. I am an unloving person, and I should stop teaching A Course in Miracles. That's you agreeing with the ego, so don't attack back. That's just the ego attacking you for being loving. That's what it does. You're not really an unloving person at all. Okay. So it says, if you are willing to see yourself as unloving, guess what? You will not be happy. Funny sentence. If you are willing to see yourself as unloving, because you just attacked back that person you saw as vicious, you will not be happy. How can you be a happy person if you see yourself as unloving? You can't. Wow. That is so deep. That when I perceive myself as being attacked by others, that is my ego having felt threatened and gone from suspicious to vicious, and now using that person to attack me for being loving so that I will attack them back, so that I won't see myself as loving anymore and I won't be happy. Ego is a diabolical genius. Ego is an evil genius. Wow. But if I can see what's going on, then when that thing or person attacks me, and I'm like, how dare you, right? I can remember, oh, ego, you are very, very crafty, you diabolical genius, you. You're very crafty. Oh, you're trying to get me to see myself as unloving so that I won't be happy. Wow. Okay.
Question.
Yes.
So the same is true if you're perceiving something instead of an attack is maybe like way less than that, like maybe just annoying
Yes.
or frustrating.
Yes. Okay, so what's the question? Say it again.
Well, so you were talking about attack,
Mhm,
which is easy to understand.
Yes.
But if it's just
An annoyance.
annoyed or frustrated
Yes.
or a little bit,
Yes.
you know,
They're just
a little
frustrating
bit
me or
off,
annoying
but
me.
not like
Yes,
full
right.
out, you know,
Exactly.
angry about something.
Not loving.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, Course in
And
Miracles.
so how is the ego
Yes.
using that situation?
Same thing. Same thing. The same thing. Because the Course in Miracles says that whether it's slight annoyance or frustration, it is just a flimsy covering pulled over intense rage. It's just a cover. And so, you know, because we are willing to respond unlovingly to somebody who irritated us, just as much as we're willing to respond, just as much as we'll respond to somebody who's like, you know, posting something terrible and untrue about us on Facebook. You know what I'm saying? We are still willing to react unlovingly. We're still willing to attack back.
So the degree is all the same.
Yes, the degree is just our, you know, is a deception. Yeah, it's a fantastic question. Yeah, so, you know, this is a projection. This is my ego using them, using this situation. If my ego wasn't wanting to attack me for having reacted lovingly, then when that person said or did what they did, I wouldn't be like, what? I would be like, oh, call for love. Oh, they must be having a bad day. How can I help them? Do you see? You know, I interpret it as an attack only because, you know, my ego wants me to interpret it as an attack so that I will attack back, so that I will see myself as unloving and never be able to be happy. So, really good question. Did that answer that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Beautiful. All right. And it says, if you attack back when you perceive yourself as attacked, you are condemning yourself, which means you must regard yourself as inadequate. If you attack back when you perceive yourself attacked, then you're just condemning yourself. And when you condemn yourself, it means you are regarding yourself as inadequate. How are you going to see yourself as adequate when you're condemning, when you've condemned yourself? How can you see yourself as adequate when you see yourself as unloving, as an unloving person? How can you actually be happy and feel like feel adequate, good enough, if you see yourself as unloving? Do you see how the ego is such an evil genius? It's so genius. It's like, you know, I don't love you, and now I'm gonna get you to also not love you. And I'm gonna do it in the most ingenious way that you'll never guess. Unless you study that ridiculous Course in Miracles.
I feel like Maya Angelou said something to me that a long time ago. I read it, it stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
Never make anyone a priority when all you are to them is an option. And I feel like I really have that amazing gauge within myself to feel like now when I'm not prioritizing myself, by, you know, actually looking at my mind and trusting its doubt of my love. And like I pull the plug on that doubt of my love by actually doubting that mind.
Yes.
That's the plug.
That's right. Exactly. Instead of doubting yourself as loving and lovable,
Yeah.
now you're doubting the voice that says you're unloving and unlovable.
Yeah.
You know, the Course in Miracles says that it says you are a glorious creation of a glorious creator, and the only way you should ever evaluate yourself or look upon yourself is as loving and lovable. That's the only way a human being must ever look upon themselves in that heart. That's the only way you should ever look upon yourself in your heart, as loving and lovable. And everything that is tempting you to attack back is the part of you that does not see you as loving and lovable and doesn't want you to see yourself as loving and lovable, because it wants to use you and control you to stay alive. The ego is a parasite. It's a parasite that can only live off of your choice. And so so the ego is using you to stay alive. And what is the ego? An unloving thought that doesn't love you, but yet exists and on you. It's like a parasite that is killing you, but it's feeding off of you, and it doesn't want you to kill it. You know, it's like, oh, please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. Oh, why? So you can stay inside and eat me from the inside? Yeah, and you know, and we're like, yeah, because then I'll at least lose weight. At least I'll look good.
That's called the back door.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. You know, and the Course in Miracles calls the ego a stranger that barged its way into our home and said, this is my house, get out of here. And we said, okay, fear, all right. You know, I'll evacuate my beautiful home so that you can take it over, fear. That's what the ego is. You know, it's a parasite that lives off of fear and guilt that is telling you that you are its home and that you should get out of there. You know, and that's why A Course in Miracles workbook says to say, I am at home here, fear is the stranger here. You know, so that we stop accepting it. We stop, like I said in that first line, the ego is in your mind, but only because we accepted it there. That's the only reason it's there. It's not, God didn't put it there. We weren't created with it. It's not natural. The ego voice is not natural within our mind. It's only there because we accepted it there. You know, and this is my home, and I will not leave it just because the ego stranger told me I had to. It's the same as saying, I am loving and lovable, and I'm not going to attack back and condemn myself just because the ego attacked me. Because
my favorite thing now is to dismiss the thought.
Exactly.
I accepted it, now I dismiss it.
Exactly.
Before
I
it
accepted
before it
you.
even comes to the
Yes.
front door.
Exactly. Yes, you must have come to ring my doorbell because I must have called you or else you wouldn't be there. But I changed my mind. No, thank you. I changed my mind. I read your reviews on Yelp and they suck. And so then the ego comes around the back door. Ding dong. Who is it? It's the mailman. I see you, ego. Darn.
But
Yes.
the ego has to be suspicious, because otherwise I'll be dead right now. he must see a lion or a tiger or some
Yes.
man with bad intentions. So I accepted it, but I also need the ego, otherwise I probably would be dead right now.
I'm glad you brought that up, Stefan, because that question comes up a lot in A Course in Miracles. And it's a common thought in, you know, spiritual New Age circles that the ego is our friend, and it's what keeps us from running out in front of a bus or doing something stupid. But A Course in Miracles doesn't say that about the ego. The Course in Miracles says that if you didn't have an ego, then you wouldn't have a thought to jump out in front of a bus. You know, you would know that that's a silly thing to do, and that there wouldn't be a bus coming at you, you know. So it says the ego is not your friend. The ego does not love you. The second sentence in the book, in the section, said the ego does not love you. And so the ego is not something that in any way, shape, or form is helpful in the world of form. Okay? If we don't need the ego to tell us don't touch fire, you know, we don't need the ego to do that. What we need is a loving parent to say don't touch it or hurt. You know, a loving parent is what, a loving voice is what tells us, don't do that, it will hurt you. Do only this. Okay? So A Course in Miracles, you know, has something different to say on that one.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, I gotta figure out how to put this. So we don't want to have unloving thoughts towards the ego either, correct?
Right.
Because if we have this thought of the ego is not my friend,
Yes.
then that's still an unloving thought.
No. To attack back after the ego has gone vicious and attacked you would be to attack it back. To say the ego is not my friend is just a correct evaluation. That's not loving. It's just a correct evaluation. The ego isn't our friend. The ego isn't loving. Okay?
It's you separation.
But, right, exactly. But when we attack, that's why it said, when the ego attacks back, it says, do not attack back. Because if you attack back, now you are agreeing with your ego's evaluation of you as unloving. So
we
we're not...
don't want to have negative thoughts about the ego either.
Yes.
That's an attack.
We don't want to attack back. Like when the ego attacks us in the, you know, however it does, you know, it uses this to attack us, it uses that to attack us, it uses that. We don't want to attack back.
Oh,
Okay. Because that, now we're agreeing with it and we're making it stronger in our belief.
so just don't talk back, or just don't attack back.
Yes.
But the thoughts about the ego are
Exactly. Exactly. Don't attack back, but do recognize what's going on. And then choose a loving thought. Choose a loving thought. I am love. I am only love. That person is only love. Only love is real. Only love is happening right here. You know, choose a loving thought and side with that. Really, really, really good question. Really good question. Yes.
And if you may find it hard to choose a loving thought, now would be the good time to ask for help.
Exactly. Exactly. If you can't think of a loving thought in that moment, that's when your loving right mind comes to rescue.
What am I looking at?
You know, what does this mean? Loving right mind, what do you see in this situation? What do you see of me? Loving right mind, what does this mean? Loving right mind, what's going on? Please. How do you see this through your eyes, love? Okay, that's all we got to do. We don't have to like make it up, you know, if we're not feeling love in that moment. If we can't find that loving thought, because we feel like we've just been attacked. Now, I don't feel very loving right now because I feel like I've been attacked. Okay, so loving right mind. How do you see this? Where's the love you said was real? You know, you said only love is real. Well, how's that apply to now? Okay, thank you, Greg. Beautiful.
And one more.
Yes, of course.
And what about how the ego like tries to hijack you after you do that?
Mhm.
You realize what you just went through consciously, and then you chose to not attack back,
Mhm.
and then you're like congratulating yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another way, right?
Yes,
We're judging ourselves
Mhm.
as maybe separate or better or whatever.
Exactly. The ego is a diabolical genius. You know, the ego will not stop trying. Remember, it goes from suspicious to vicious. And the ego is vigilant on its purpose that you not love yourself and you not see yourself as loving. And the ego is more vigilant about its purpose than we are vigilant on our purpose to see ourselves and know ourselves as only love. And so the Course in Miracles is trying to help us become more vigilant on that purpose than even the ego is vigilant on its purpose. Okay? The ego never forgets its purpose, that you see yourself as unloving and unlovable. We are trying to work up to that. We're trying to develop that level of vigilance for our purpose, Spirit's purpose. And that's the spiritual practice. That's the spiritual path. The practicing, and the practicing, and the practicing, and the practicing, and the practicing of seeing ourselves through the eyes of our loving right mind. That's the practice. Practice, practice, practice. Loving right mind, how do you see me? How do you see this? What does this mean, love? What does this mean, love? You know, and it said in the first paragraph, your loving right mind only sees you as loving and lovable, period. And it's not deceived by anything you do. Your loving right mind isn't like, oh, that phone call you made, not a really good idea. Oh, maybe you're not so loving. Your loving right mind knows you are only loving and lovable and isn't deceived by anything you do that seems to be unloving. You know, the ego knows that's all you are and only that, and it's not thrown off by any unloving mistakes you make. Thank you, God. How would you like to have a friend like that? Where no matter what crazy stuff you do that's unloving to others or yourself, it knows that in your essence, the truth about you is that you are loving and lovable, and that's the only truth about you, and whatever you just did there was your call for love.
And you're not your body.
Exactly, and you're not your body. How would you like to have a friend like that? Well, lucky for us, we do. And lucky for us, it's actually in our minds. That's where it lives. You know, in any moment, we can ask for and receive its evaluation of us so that we are not deceived by our own mistakes and our own calls for love, our own not knowing that we are only love. All right. Wonderful. Great job, guys. Hanging in there. And great questions, great comments. Fantastic. And you guys too. Thanks for being in here. Hi, Ram. Hi, Ram from India. And Carol and Carla. Lovely to see you all. Thanks for joining this healing circle.
Well, I got here late, but I got a full class.
Yes, exactly. You can't but be in the right place at the right time. Say, exactly. That's what I'm supposed to say as a loving person, you know, instead of a scared wife, insecure wife. Where were you?
Wouldn't you like to know?
What were you doing? Why are you late? Why was that big smile on your face when you walked in? My loving right mind says you can't but be in the right place at the right time, honey.
Thank you, darling.
Beautiful. All right, so now we're just going to do a couple minute integration meditation, and then we will go back out to the lab and practice. the love lab. How's it going in the love lab today? It was quite the doozy. I was quite tempted to tack back a few times. All right. So, all right. So close your eyes and just breathe and feel. Just tuning inward. How do these ideas feel as you listen to them? I wonder why Spirit chose this section through the random number generator. Now I want you to bring to your awareness a situation where you have recently felt attacked, either from within your own self or seemingly out in the world, seemingly outside of yourself, coming at you. Where is it that you have felt attacked recently? Beautiful. And now, I want you to notice how you were tempted to attack back. How were you attempting to defend yourself with something besides love? Beautiful. And now I want you to just see if you can identify a place where you had reacted lovingly in shortly before this experience of being attacked. Was there a situation that you typically don't react lovingly to that you did react lovingly to? Or had you just been in a particularly loving space before this attack? Beautiful. Now I want you to speak the truth over this perceived attack. And I want you to say over it, this attack is a projection of my own ego that was feeling threatened by my being loving. I chose to react lovingly, and my ego got scared, really scared, and it went from suspicious and to vicious, and it attacked me, trying to get me to attack back so that I would see myself as unloving, so that I couldn't be happy. We're telling the truth. We're telling the truth about it, what really happened. We're speaking truth to the deception. We are seeing the attack through the eyes of our loving right mind. It's a trick. And now tell yourself, I do not need to defend myself with attack. I do not need to attack back. Attacking back will not work. And now let us call upon our loving right mind and ask for our loving right mind's assessment of us right now and this situation. Loving right mind, how do you see me right now? And how do you see this situation right now? I want to see myself through your eyes and your evaluation of me, loving right mind. And know that your loving right mind's perception of you is so lofty that you can barely even perceive it. You can't even begin to imagine how loving and lovable and beautiful that your loving right mind sees you as. You can't even begin to understand. But you can ask. And now I want you to say to yourself silently, I am only loving and lovable, and this is how I will to see myself in my heart. I am loving and I am lovable, and this is how I will to see myself in my heart. And thank you, God. Take a breath, feeling how that feels within you to decide that, to see yourself like that. How does that feel? Beautiful. And when you're ready, open your eyes, take a breath, yawn and stretch, wiggle your fingers and your toes. All right. Good job, guys. Give it up for yourself for listening to something so loving, so loving. Oh, good job, guys. Way to love yourself. Way to love yourself. You deserve it. I appreciate you all so much, and I appreciate you all for actually bringing your beautiful communication devices to be here in the room. It feels so good to have you here. I'm so grateful. Thank you. All right. See you next time I see you.